Hello and welcome to What's Out There. We're very excited to show you some trails that come off of the Fruit Street fields. One of them is the Mary C. Pratt North Trail and then the Mary C. Pratt South Trail. These trails cover a large area of the woods around here. We're going to see different types of fir trees. We're going to hear some birds, hopefully see a deer or a duck. Who knows? You can see that Hopkinton Area Land Trust is part of what has maintained and created these trails. And we also have Sudbury Valley trustees involved here. So it's a wonderful resource right in Hopkinton. I'd like to bring in my friend Chuck Dotchie from Hopkinton Trails Club, Hopkinton Area Land Trust, and Trails Management and Coordination Committee, who also has bushwhacked some of these trail sections, and that means he cut the trails through and then he mapped them out. So he's really an invaluable resource as well. Thank you, Chuck.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here and to tell folks about this great resource we have. We have close to 6 miles of trails here, and when you include the Pratt Farm meadow area to the north, and a variety from easy walking to some that are a little more challenging and interesting. So glad Margie's going to show us around.
Thank you. And we have 2 ways that we can go into the northern section. Actually 3 ways. There's one way that can be accessed off of the drive in here past the dog park. And then there's another way straight behind us. And an easier route would be going across the edge of the woods, across the field to go in that way. We're going to take the middle road. Let's go see what's out there. So right here looks like it's the trail going back to the original or the beginning entry, but this is not the trail for that. Chuck has a little story about what happened here.
Well, it's this is where they put in a water line out to the new dog park. And just so folks won't be confused in the future, Margie has reminded me maybe we should block this off a little more clearly, which we will do.
Good idea. You're welcome. So the trail continues this way, and this is where it gets a little tricky because it goes downhill. Trail bike riders might love this, but it's not great depending on what footwear you have. And down here is where it connects to the official connection of the other trail. And here it is. This is where the trail comes in from the Mary Pratt North Trail official start. And if you notice, we have an orange arrow here and a white arrow there. Chuck has just told me that the orange arrow means that this is the way to a parking area or to the trailhead, whereas the white arrow shows you what direction you go to get to the full trail. So those are the 2 different trails. Let's keep going. So right here is a really cool area because we get a chance to look at some of the amazing selection of trees. To your left is gray birch, which looks white, but it's actually called gray birch. There's another one behind Chuck. And then right here, this is black birch. So you can see that it's darker. How do we know it's a birch? Because it has the characteristic lines going across the bark. To me, it looks a little bit like an elephant leg, that kind of look, all right? And over here, we have a white pine. How do I know it's a white pine? Because the trunk is black, and if I look at the needle strand has 5 little pieces to it, which I don't know if you can see, but 5, when I was a kid, I would remember WHITE, 5 needles, white pine. Okay, so far, 2 types of birch and a type of pine. We have a couple more pine. We have a hemlock, and some ground pine is actually right down on the ground over here. I don't want to pick, here is a better shot. So right here, ground pine or princess pine, these I think are so beautiful, just beautiful little fluffy things on the ground. So, and some baby white pine. So for me, that's really exciting because it just shows the variety of nature that we have here. And then we have this beautiful wetlands behind us where possibly we would hear some spring peepers in a couple weeks or so. I think the official meteorological spring starts in a couple days on March 1st. We think of spring as March 21st, but we could start to hear the peepers any day now. So let's keep going and see what we have next. So as you can see, this part of the trail gets wet, which means that if it's been cold, it freezes. So you're going to need proper footwear for the icy times, but also this will turn to mud. So make sure that you have something waterproof and with grippy soles, because we don't want you to get hurt. So this is really beautiful, and it looks a little bit yellow because it's ice under the water. Vernal pool again, and just a really beautiful, peaceful spot. So here we have one of the fabulous bridges that Halt and Trails Club volunteers have built. Some of the trails have bridges built by Eagle Scouts, but this particular one was built by some of our fabulous Halt and Trails Club volunteers. We really appreciate that because we need a bridge there. This is beautiful. So right here, this looks like some owls may have made a home here. Definitely some woodpecker holes. Nobody's in there right now. I was very careful to check. So this is really cool. I'm looking at a white pine cone. So further confirmation, the white pine needles are stuck right in there. Comes down from the tree above. Smells fabulous, like pine trees. And as we walk this way where the white arrow is, we're going to connect to the other part of the trail, or the other trailhead that comes in off the field. There's actually an amazing broken sort of tree over there that I'm going to go look at right now. So I can hear a chickadee calling to its mate. Usually we think of chickadees doing chickadee-dee-dee, but this one is more like sweetie, sweetie. No, it's not doing it, but you'll hear it in the background while we're walking. Oop. So I found some more evidence of different types of pine. This again, the white pine. This is a pitch pine. The pitch pine has two sort of stiff needles, and the bark is, I guess it's kind of in chunks. So it's black, but it's chunky. It's not a smooth type of bark. It's sort of in sections. So those are two of the different types. And want to talk a little bit about the topography here and the history. So this is where Pine Sand and Gravel has operated for many years, and I'm not sure they're still here. I think it's now the DPW, Hopkinton DPW. But there are lots of little ridges, and all of these pine came here because pine are shallow rooted, and they are carried here by birds and planted and root easily. So as you walk along, this is not typical forest topography, which is, there are lots of little bumps and ridges. Chuck, do you want to add to that anything?
The only that there's some areas, and maybe we can spot one where the interesting thing about white pine is that there, on the white pines, you have what are called whorls of branches, and between each whorl is a year's growth.
Okay.
So looking at larger pines, you can try and count those whorls and get an idea of how long the area was since the area was mined for gravel and abandoned.
Yep, and there's the pitch pine right there. You can see it above the white pine lower here. The pitch pine is the higher pine with the different needles and the different pine cones on it. So, and again, there's a birch right next to it. So I just love the different variety of trees and plant life here. So this is a beautiful example of the pitch pine, which actually has 3 stiff needles. It's the red pine that has 2, which doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, so you can see all of these beautiful cones at the end of the branches all along here. Just a whole bunch of beautiful cones ready to seed. The white pine actually seeds blown through the air. And the squirrels bury them. So different ways of spreading the wealth of pine around here. So coming up here, there's a V. You want to stay to the left of the V to get to where the foundations are, because to the right just leads you out towards Fruit Street again. And this is the way we want to go. I didn't get rid of Chuck, he's just up ahead of me. So I'll see you up ahead. Oh, good. So right here, I can give you another reminder that the orange arrows mean that it's going out to the trailhead or to a parking area. To continue the trail, we want to go to the right here where the white arrow is, okay? So white is right. Orange means you're done or you're starting. Here we go. Aha! So here, when I look at this tree and I think, oh, what kind of berries are on this tree? I realize, nope, that's bittersweet. So these little red berries, these are actually on a vine that's climbing on this tree. And personally, what I do with this, as my mother did, who is a biology major at Wellesley College, I make wreaths out of these because you take them, you gently take them off the tree so it doesn't choke the tree, and then you wind it around and you wrap it and you have a beautiful wreath. The berries aren't good for your pets to eat though, so make sure that you don't have pets if you have bittersweet berries. We have another big tangle up ahead. So just past the first tangle of bittersweet, we have the first of our foundations of, we call them cellar holes also. There is a Boy Scout, Harrison Bograd, who is currently doing a project where he's putting labels or signs on each of these historical cellar holes. It's very exciting. I can't wait to see it. But this one right here is where the barn would have been. There would be an access sort of at this level and then another access at a lower level. So it would have been a 2-story structure. And a little farther up is the house that would go with this barn. So let's go see if we can find that. So here is the next group of bittersweet or tangle of bittersweet. And then to the right here, oh my gosh, Harrison has started the project. He already has the base up for the signboard. He's got it flagged. And right in here is where the house would have been. This is the cellar hole for a house. You can see in the middle is a cement or concrete structure. That might have been the chimney where they would have built the fire to heat the home, probably because it's in the middle. And then obviously the fieldstone foundation to support the house. So very exciting to see this history right here in Hopkinton. So right here is where North Street comes in, Fruit Street goes down. So if you lived in this area, you could just walk up right in this little pathway right here. There really isn't a parking space, although you probably could pull over to the side if you needed to come in for a minute. But this is really a great access for the neighbors right here into this beautiful, peaceful space with the sound of the wind in the pines. The air smells so good out here, and this ice might actually be melted, and then we have another snowstorm coming along. So that's not a straight path, it's a really nice wooded path that meanders. We're going to keep meandering this way. So right here, there's another fork, and I've gone to the right before, and there's an interesting thing where there's a pine tree coming up through a tire that was abandoned. But we're going to go straight because taking it straight and then left gets us along the edge of the Pratt farm property, and then we're going to cut down through the Whitehall Brook trail back to where we started. Let's go.
Here's another example of trail branch with different colors. The main trail, the white. This looks like it might be an orange, meeting back to a parking area, but I'm afraid we call it a red. And the red trails here are intermediate links. This would take us back to intersect with the trail we came up on, and is probably a little easier footing than the way we're going to go back from here.
Ooh, I am liking this lichen. So I have to stop and show you because this is really a beautiful example of shelf lichen. And you can see that this has just been cut because probably the lichen got into the tree and weakened it, and the tree fell over, and they cut it to probably halt, came in and cut it to make the pathway clear again. So this is a beautiful example of shelf lichen. There's some more on this piece of tree right here. You can see the little shelf pieces. They look like shells, but it's shelf lichen. And then over here is another beautiful example of it. And even more here, and this has moss as well as lichen. So these other trees, these other plants get into the trees and break the trees apart a little bit, and that's all part of the cycle of nature. That's what it's supposed to do. So I found an interesting thing in the woods as we come out of that trail. This, you probably know, is an oak leaf. Oaks are long and they have the lobes on the side of them, whereas maples are wide, like a hand. These are oak galls. They look like brown golf balls a little bit, but what happens is the insect lays its egg on the oak leaf, and then the leaf blows up the oak gall around the leaf to protect the leaf, kind of like dust getting into an oyster, and then the oyster makes the pearl, although these are not valuable in that sense. So these are oak galls. You can see them in the woods. What was inside them was an insect, which then poked its way out and flew away to do the same to another oak leaf. So here we are at the edge of Pratt Farm Field. This is, these big things here are perk drilling areas, and this was going to be tested as a water area. I can't really open, that's okay. But this is protected land from the town of Hopkinton. That's what this sign says. And we're going to continue along the edge of the Pratt farm field to get to the Whitehall Brook Trail. So here we are. This is the back of the Pratt farm property field. And just to show you what you would be looking at to your left as you walk on the trail, as we pan to the right, we have a water area that Chuck has told me is has a beaver living in it, which shouldn't be there. And Chuck's going to say a little more about that.
Yep, down in what is now ice, you can see there is a family of beavers that managed to defeat what's called a beaver deceiver, something to keep the water level at a feasible height, and they've flooded a pretty extensive area down here now. But that is their nature. That is what they do.
Thank you, Chuck. And so to the right of the beaver undeceived area, we have the beginning of the Whitehall Brook Trail that will lead us back into the Fruit Street Fields, which has wonderful signage again. And Jim Cousins, our fabulous photographer for today, actually asked the question about numbering the trails and having some kind of central list. And Chuck said they're doing that. That's in the works, and that Cameron Woods Trail is starting with the numbers. So that's going to be a great thing for all of us to be able to look at a map or our phone to see what trail we're actually on. So thanks, HALT and Trails Club and TCMC. Here we go. So right here you see there's a yellow arrow. And Chuck has told me this is for the Whitehall Brook Trail. And once you have the map of the Fruit Street Pratt trail area, which we do have online, I believe, with the HALT Trail resource, then you would know that the yellow trail is the Whitehall Brook Trail if you're looking at the map, and we don't need numbers. So that's just another way of keeping all of our trails identified.
Here we are on one of the several bridges, but to give you an idea of the extent of the beaver activity, when this bridge was put in just last spring, the water level was down about 2 feet below where it is now. So it gives you an idea of how busy those beavers have been.
And how busy the HALT bridge builders have been. So again, we thank our Hopkinton HALT and Trails Club bridge builders. What a great day for this. Hearing chickadees over there. And tough to titmice over there. A little muddy. So here we are coming out at the end of the Whitehall Brook Trail. This is where the trail comes in off of the fields and continues the way we just went. And behind the camera is where we came through in our initial foray. And the thing that I stopped to pick up was an acorn. You all know what an acorn is, but did you know that the top of an acorn can whistle? If I do it right? Let's keep going. So here is one of my favorite sort of views. This is the area where the beaver is damming it up at one end, but this part is Whitehall Brook, and it actually leads to the Sudbury River, which doesn't seem like it would be near here, but it in fact is. So this area flows in that direction. There is a path along the left side of the field that is the Whitehall Brook Trail, or continuation of it. We're not going to go there because it's a little bit tricky footing today with the ice. So instead of walking up to the left here, we're just going to go across the field. So this is where the path would go. We're going to go across the field where it's not as tricky underfoot and continue on to Mary Pratt South Trail, because this was the Mary Pratt North Trail. So Chuck, could you show us where we went today on this wonderful map?
I will, and so folks know, this map is available for download from the Hopkinton Area Land Trust website. So we started at the main parking area, took this trail that's marked with orange, picked up the white Mary Pratt North Trail, followed it around here, up here. The foundations we looked at are about there. Came out to the Pratt Farm Meadows here, then picked up the Whitehall Brook Trail, the yellow trail, followed it back this way to the edge of the fields, and then took the easy route back across the fields to the parking.
So today we had a wonderful hike through the part of the trail system over here that Chuck just showed you. And on our next show, we're going to have the opportunity to do the other part, the south part, because today we just did north. Yeah. So I hope you'll join us next time on What's Out There, because we can't wait to show you what's out there.